Good morning, Nigeria, and welcome to Daybreak, reaching you live from the nation's capital in Abuja. My name is Ayuba Ilya, and today is an exciting day. Monday is a day that starts up the whole day and the whole week with a lot of activities to be done, really.
Indeed. Good morning, Nigeria. Welcome to Daybreak on Trust Television, reaching you live from our studios here in the nation's capital city, Abuja. How was your weekend, Ayuba?
Well, it was great. The weekend, as usual, comes with a lot of events, to be attended.
But did you have the
it's now
opportunity
a
to attend
common,
any
it's now a very popular lexicon to say Saturdays are for weddings. So
Are they for weddings?
you would find that there's always this friend or this brother, this sister, that is having his or her wedding, on a Saturday. So one will always have to attend. And I think that's the most colorful part of the weekend for me.
But did you attend any wedding?
Yes,
really?
yes, I did. A friend is having a wedding, and then I was a guest, wedding guest, as they say. And it was an exciting moment getting to meet others, other friends, a reuniting moment, really, for me.
Great indeed. So today on the program, we're going to be having a guest in the studio to talk about the International, or rather World Children's Day.
And quite a lot. We will be having Honorable Bamidele to talk to us about, the qualities and the potentials of children, in leadership and all of that. And we'll be looking at quite a lot of other reports as well. We have, a woman who is defying odds.
Yes, actually a girl. She's disabled. There's this mystery around her disability. Just when she was crawling at about 6-7 months, and then suddenly she couldn't move anymore. The parents just noticed that she couldn't walk anymore. And then it was not polio, it was nothing like that. But suddenly she just couldn't move. And she loves to go to school. And her parents do not really have money to pay for her education. So what she does is she stands on the street every morning in Gwarimpa. She gathers some money, and when she does that, she uses that to pay for her school fees and also give her mom the remaining money that she acquires.
Well, we'll take a look at that later on the program. The teacher strike in the FCT is ongoing, and yesterday we woke up also to tragic stories about attack on the Abuja-Kaduna highway, that even led to the loss of life, one of the former governorship aspirants in Zamfara State, and a whole lot of other issues we'll be looking at on the show you don't want to miss. For now, let's take this break and then take a look at the events of today's 22nd, events of 22nd in world history. Please stay with us.
well, quite a number of remarkable events, that happened in history. Taking a look at in 1963, John F. Kennedy is assassinated. This has trailed over history, hasn't it?
It's a day that will not be forgotten in America's history, given the role that John F. Kennedy played. He was a remarkable president, and then one would say that, well, with the sophistication of the America's security system, the CIA and all of that, yet he was assassinated. So it was a tragic loss, really. Yeah, it stands very significant in America's history, and which is why I believe that in America today their security is, more and more being sophisticated. They are making sure that such things don't happen again. If you look at all the persons that followed, after JFK, and all of that and their roles, it was, something that you shouldn't have a repeat, because America is a country that many other countries look up to, right, democratically and all of that. Well, and another significant one is the emergence of Angela Merkel as the German Chancellor in 2005. A very, very important feat there for the women folk.
Yeah.
Of course, I would say that, and after her, we saw many other women, right, who emerged as well, assuming political offices of that, of that magnitude, very, very high political offices. So it's quite a memory to remember. We have other women also, our own Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, right, in the World Trade Center also. Yes, World Trade Organization, WTO, doing very well. So it's something that I believe will inspire many other women, right, to ascend and to participate.
I would want to see a female president in Nigeria. I just hope that is possible one day.
Very soon. I mean, we are having the first acting president in America now. We are talking about, the Joe Biden, decided to transmit power to his vice, which is a woman, and she's right now in acting capacity. So we are inching closer.
It's a win-win for women,
We're inching closer. The world at large is beginning to see, the importance and the significance of, engaging women, even politically.
Right.
And that narrative is changing. I'm sure that sooner or later we'll see a female president in Nigeria.
Hopefully. All right, let's move on. Now let's take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to take a look at some of the stories that made headlines on our dailies this morning. Stay with us.
But in a situation where you find that they look like the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
but I have said that.
All right, thank you for staying with us. This is Daybreak, and now we move into the next segment on the show, which is looking at the stories that made the headlines on our newspapers. We have in the studio Suleiman, Deputy Editor-in-Chief, Daily Trust newspaper, to review the stories with us this morning. Good morning, and it's good to have you, Janice.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Welcome to the program.
All right, let's begin with Daily Trust newspaper this morning, and there you would find the sad story of ex-Goba aspirant who was killed as gunmen abduct many on Kaduna-Abuja Road. You'd find the details of that report on page 6 of the Daily Trust. And then you also have federal government to increase basic education funding to 3% of consolidated revenue fund. The lead story on Daily Trust, Kano beats South East in VAT collection. You'd see the riders there. Yobe collects higher than Ekiti, Edo, others. The riders also says Abia got 10 times more than it generated. Claims sharing benefits, northern states more than south erroneous. You also have other rider there. States will bear the brunt of decentralized collection. That's according to experts. And then you have this infograph there, about this story. And then below that, bandits family trapped as Air Force bombards hideouts. 3 die in Gombe, Monarchs convoy crash. Unpaid arrears, FCT teachers insist on strike. We'll be looking at that much later on the program. Kill bandits, bring their corpses, weapons, army chief tells troops. These are the stories that made the headlines on the Daily Trust newspaper.
Okay, let's take a look at some of the stories that made headlines on the Nation newspaper this morning. The Nation newspaper is leading with a story, INEC awaits President's action on Electoral Act. You'd also find Nigerians stranded abroad over expired passports. You'd also see prosecute illegal varsity operators. Afe Babalola tells NUC. So these are some of the lead stories on the Nation newspaper this morning.
All right. Well, the next paper I'll be looking at is the Punch newspaper. The first story there, at the very top, you'd see short-term loans. Others push banks' assets to 58.51 trillion naira. And then you also find the other stories there. FG rehabilitates 15,000 terrorists, 366 soldiers, policemen killed in 2 years. Invading Cameroonian rebels came by boats. Taraba community residents. Experts blame 2023 elections for 4.1 trillion naira rise in recurrent expenditure. The lead story says 9 ships seized by EFCC rot away in Lagos. Others, with the riders, no budgetary provision for Navy to maintain seized forfeited ships. Some of the vessels being managed by third parties pay rent to EFCC. I think these are the major stories on the Punch newspaper.
Okay, the Guardian newspaper. Economy, new borrowing on the way as oil production reserves dwindle. You'd also find on page 4 of the Guardian newspaper, Nigeria, Africa account for 2% of global trade as continent's infrastructure deficit hit $100 billion. And on page 5, you'd see Kogi government gives EFCC 48 hours, denies ownership of 19.3 billion naira returned to CBN. And on page 8, you'd find it's difficult to sell APC in Southeast, says Mwe. So basically, these are some of the major stories.
All right, on the Daily Sun newspaper, Monday sit at home no longer tenable. That's according to Haneze Ndibo. You'd also find the lead story says banditry, Abuja schools on red alert with riders. Parents abandon school buses, withdraw kids from boarding houses. We are on top of situation. That's according to the FCT. PDP will sack APC in 2023. BOT chairman says Nigeria in disarray. That's that on the Sun newspaper, and that's about the last paper we'll be looking at this morning.
Okay.
Now let's get perspectives on the stories. Again, we welcome you, reviewer, to the studio.
Thank you.
All right. Let's begin with the sad incident of this Abuja Kaduna attack by bandits. Just some months ago, everybody is becoming relaxed that, well, maybe the road is now safer, and then this happens. What's the implication of this?
Frankly, I don't know. You know, when I say I don't know, I mean, is there anything that needs to be said again about insecurity in the north, in the country? Everything that needs to be said has already been said. What has not yet been done or done enough is action, and I mean collective action, which is what has been lacking. You know, state governments are taking action, the federal government is taking action, the police, everyone is taking action, but they are not doing it in a coordinated manner. They are not doing it in a way that also involves citizens to also participate in their own security individually and collectively as well. So I think it is that deficit of action, if you allow me, that's just left to be said. You know, the thing about this banditry is it has taken a nihilist turn, by which I mean that killing has become sport to those who do it. this is very clear, that it's no longer even just about money or about ransoms or even about rascality or lawlessness. You know, there's a power psychologically, you know, that people get if they have a sense that they are on the lives of others, they have some control over other people. I think we have got to that point with the bandits now. It is no longer, you know, all of the reasons for which they do it no longer apply. Because you can take ransoms, you can collect money without all the killings, you know, but it is becoming, or has become indeed, I stand by that, has become like sport. People are enjoying it in their own ways. This is how we have to understand this thing. And then this now asks the whole society a question. Are we content with this kind of thing? That the taking of human life extrajudicially and violently and indiscriminately and too frequently, are we comfortable with that as a society? That's what we need to ask. And the one person who should be asking that question more than anyone else is the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Now, our roads are not safe, and now we're seeing the rail workers, you know, going on strike. A lot of people see the rail as the safest means of traveling, and now they're on strike. How does this really affect us as a people?
The railway strike?
Yes.
Okay, I thought I read somewhere yesterday that it's been called off or something, but
No, it has.
okay, it has been called
Yes,
off.
yes,
Okay.
yes.
The well, again, this is. I don't think it's too bad as such. If you were reading a 1921 or 1931 newspaper, you are likely to see railway staff also going on strike. If you are reading a newspaper in 1961 as well in Nigeria, you are likely to see railway staff going on strike. You know, there's always this, there's a culture of striking by workers in the country, even at the slightest opportunity, you know, and sometimes for even frivolous reasons. And sometimes the media, we always feel that government is bad, citizens are good. Government is guilty, citizens are innocent. It's not always true. For example, the reason why these people are going on strike, they are whoever is heading them, the president of the Association of Nigerian Union of Railway Workers, NUR, he was saying that they are being paid, drivers are being paid 36,000 naira, 30,000 naira, 26,000 naira. I doubt very, very much if that can be true. Because if you work for the Nigerian Railway Corporation, you are a federal government staff, because the company itself is owned by the federal government, right? And even the minimum wage for somebody who is on level 1, and there are very, very few people who are employed at level 1, the minimum wage is 30,000 naira. So you cannot tell me that a railway, someone who drives railways is earning less than the minimum wage. Nobody, it doesn't happen. At the minimum, he would maybe level 5. So there's no way somebody can now stay. But they keep pushing these things out to, you know, project a particular, you know, what suits their own situation. So I think we need to break down. I'm talking about workers now, not just the government. We need to break down this idea that, okay, if we don't get what we want, the next thing is to go on strike. We're disrupting our own country. It doesn't mean anything.
All right, now let's take a look at, you know, other stories. Well, INEC is awaiting the president's action on the Electoral Act. This is just as we approach 2023. We've had experiences where it will be dragged. The whole assent will be dragged until when it is eve of the election, then we'll say, oh, it's too close. We can't do this. We can't do this now. It's going to disrupt plans and all of that. How important is this Electoral Act, you know, to our 2023 election, and why do we need to be very urgent, I mean, in terms of implementing it?
Well, the thing is, I doubt very much if that story will have anything new to say. I very much doubt it, because the process has been completed. We're waiting for presidential accent. The president would normally take his time, study the law and then maybe accent or withdraw his accent to it. The more crucial thing, and this is where the issues are the various provisions of the electoral bill itself and the interest that they have generated. I still feel that I've read quite a bit of that bill. I still feel that there are many sections of it that are even far more contentious, than those ones that people have focused attention on. So hopefully maybe if they become laws and then their implementations start, then maybe we'll begin to feel their impact and then our attentions will be drawn there. But really, that in fact, when I was looking at that earlier, I was thinking of what would have been going on in the nation's newsroom that reported this story. We Daily Trust, we started this tradition that every day we will lead with an original story, a story that is generated by us, by ourselves, rather than by the newsmakers. So I can see that has become a tradition across all the newspapers now. So when I saw that, I was thinking that, well, these people are looking for an original story and they found one by all means. Otherwise, there's nothing new there to be said.
Okay. So do you think the president is going to give a direct assent, or he might suggest, adjustments to some of the provisions in the bill?
Well, that's the point. In some of the provisions, the National Assembly have said that, for example, the direct primaries section, they have said that if the president doesn't give accent, they are going to veto it. But you cannot veto a section of a law. You can only veto the entire law. So I think the politics has not entirely settled. My thinking is that the president will have a team that are studying the law, and then will report to him that, okay, these are the implications of each and or the various sections or the major sections of the bill. And then if he feels okay with each of these, he will then assent to them. If he doesn't, then he will report back to the National Assembly that he's not happy with this is his own position with this particular provision, his own position with this section, and so on and so forth. This is an entirely normal process in lawmaking. It is just that we are going close to the elections, and people are interested in what happens to the election. Otherwise, the process would normally have taken even longer. I don't think the president should be under any pressure in assenting to it. The point is that he needs to study it. His team needs to study the various provisions and give him feedback on what the implications are. You don't sign a law merely because people are expecting you to immediately. You have to understand what you are signing. So I think to that extent, we just sit and wait.
All right. Now, I'd like for us to take perspectives on the lead story on the Daily Trust newspaper this morning about, Kano beat Southeast in VAT collection and all of that. Maybe you just give us, highlight of that story before we round it up here.
The major highlight is that all along, the debate about VAT has been devoid of data. Has been a debate without evidence. It has largely been a debate stirred, with stories, and then almost entirely based on emotional outbursts and outrage, as usual in Nigeria. And now we got this data which shows very clearly that, wow, things are not the way they are. Part of the reason why the debate was so interesting is because it followed a particular narrative that northern Nigeria is feeding fat on southern Nigeria, right, as far as economic resources are concerned. This has never been true at any time in Nigerian history. It was not true even during the colonial era, where the story originated. But it something that makes, it feeds our politics very well, because our politics is divided along regional lines, along, ethnic and all this kind of things. So it works well there. This data is challenging all of that. It's showing that Kano State, for example, generates $24 billion. I mean, 24. Well, I hope that 24 billion naira, in the past 8 months between January and August. You understand? During the same period, the whole of southeastern Nigeria, all the 5 states, so that are saying they are suffering injustice, and because they are suffering injustice, they want to live in Nigeria. They want to, go out of Nigeria. Meaning that even that debate too is being driven by emotions rather than by data, by facts. So that are saying they want to leave Nigeria. All of them, all the 5 states generated 20 billion. But Abia State, even though it generated just 2 billion, it received 20 billion naira from the federal government during that same period. 10 times what it generated. What fairness can be more than that? What brotherliness can be more than that? Because for it to generate that much, you would have had to take away from states like Rivers, states like Kano, Kaduna, states like Lagos and the FCT here that generated more, in order to give more to Abia State. You're following? So the argument has been driven largely by nonsense.
Emotions.
You understand?
Like you said.
As you've earlier mentioned, you said there has been no data, to show all of this. Would you say the whole debate around value-added tax was what prompted this to come out at this time?
Yes, we have been on this story for more than a month. To even get the data in the first place, and then to make analysis of the data, to try to put it into context in ways that will add value to the debate, to refine the debate, to guide the debate, to become a debate driven by data, driven by facts, rather than driven by emotions. So what this shows is that if you are saying all southern states, for example, and the thing is that if you take out Lagos, then it means that all of the southern states, all of them produce, probably around 16% of the total. If you take out Lagos. So that's because Lagos and Abuja combined, they produce 65% of everything. So if you take out Lagos, all the other 16, all the remaining 16 states, they produce around 16% of the total. So we're saying that the argument that we want to we want to control the VAT generated from our own states. What is technologically, I'm just being told that it's possible in some instances, but it also means that people will need circumspection. Because that one was a thinking based on the idea that, you'll be there, they are not producing anything, and they are getting more. But it turns out that Yobe is producing more than 7-8 states in the south.
Well, very, very interesting revelation there, because, of course, like you said, that we've had several arguments that seem to give it a tone. That says, well, the northern part of the country seems to be more
and
like
mind you, the
body.
data is from the highest authority on these matters, the Federal Inland Revenue Service. Although, of course, how it's obtained, it's purely journalistic process. It's entirely different.
Well, then, that's very interesting. For details of that, if you want to catch up, you can pick a copy of the Daily Trust newspaper. You would find that story on page 5. You would have all the details, all the data, and every other thing that you need to know. All right, with that, I think we'll wrap up the newspaper review for today. Thank you so much for coming and sharing perspectives with us on these stories that made the headlines this morning. We will now go on a short break, and then when we come back, we'll take a look at other discussions on the program. Please stay with us.
Get latest updates on current topical issues and breaking news by downloading the TrustTV mobile app on your Android devices. Go online, click Google Play Store, search TrustTV, install the app, and get doses of unfiltered information on happenings all over the world in your pocket. Trust TV, documenting the Nigerian story. Get latest updates on current topical issues and breaking news by downloading the TrustTV mobile app on your Android devices. Go online, click Google Play Store, search TrustTV, install the app, and get doses of unfiltered information on happenings all over the world in your pocket. Trust TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
All right, welcome back. If you are just joining us, this is Daybreak on Trust Television. Now, Saturday, 20th of November 2021 was International or World Children's Day.
Yeah, very, very important day, you know, in our country and in our history. And now the very tool for which you can harness children's leadership qualities and abilities seem to be under threat, which is education. And I'm talking about incessant strikes. I'm talking about the COVID-19 pandemic that came and have a very great impact on our educational sector, and even insecurity in recent times. Now, the one that we're going to be looking at this morning is basically about how to harness this sector, how to make sure that it's running optimally. But before we begin the discussion, we have a report on the FCT teacher strike. Take a look at that, and then when we come back, you get to meet our guest and then look at the issues and I would say matters arising as far as that is concerned. Please stay with us.
It is a weekday, and normally schools would have been bubbling with activities of pupils, students and teachers. But that is not the case today. Members of teaching staff in public schools have taken a warning industrial strike action under the aegis of the Nigeria Union of Journalists. This is pressing home their demands for better treatment from the government. This is Jabi Primary School in Jabi, Abuja, and it is completely empty without any teacher or pupil in sight. And that is the same situation across primary and secondary schools in the Federal Capital Territory. The Nigeria Union of Teachers, NUT, Abuja chapter, has embarked on a 5-day warning strike. And what are they demanding for? They want better security in their schools, and they are also demanding the payment of arrears of promotion benefits to teachers. Teachers at this school have declined making any comments on the strike on camera. But they say the recent cases of attacks and kidnappings, mostly in schools in the FCT, is fueling their decision. They say they are no longer safe carrying out their duty, and they want better assurances of safety from the government. One of the students sent home from school narrates what happened.
Yesterday I went to school and I heard that there's no school, and I asked what happened, and they said the teachers are on strike. And it was on break time that they asked us to go home because they'll be going on strike.
Another major issue at the core of the warning strike is the non-payment of arrears of promotion benefits to teachers. But surprisingly, NUT executives at the NUT FCT chapter in Gwagwalada also declined our request for an interview. This is Teachers House, the headquarters of the Nigeria Union of Teachers, FCT Wing, Abuja. Now, after very much concerted efforts to reach the public relations officer or the chairman of the NUT here to get comments on the recently embarked 5-day warning strike, all our efforts have so far proven abortive. Security is still a big threat to public schools in the FCT, and arrears on promotion benefits have still not been paid. Now that leaves us wondering, if these people want solutions to their problems, then why are they not speaking up? Chijoke Okafo, TrustTV News, Abuja.
Well, there you have it. Strike actions seem to be something that is gradually becoming traditional or cultural, with our educational sector, and so it is for other sectors of the Nigerian economy. Quite unfortunate, really, that we have to go that route. Now we have in the studio Honorable Bamidele Salam from Children of Leadership and Values Development Initiative, and he is going to be talking to us, about the educational sector and how important it is for us to harness children's leadership potentials. Good morning, and it's good to have you join us.
Welcome to the program.
Good morning, thank you very much.
So now, how would you say, how does strike actions, affect children?
Yes, every disruption in normal activities affects children, not just in the educational sector. Every other sector where there's a disruption in normal activities, children are about the most affected because they are, some of the most vulnerable members of the community. But in particular, when there are disruptions in the educational system, they suffer most because education is the only process through which we can acculturate our children, through which we can give them that which they need at this stage of their life to become whom God has destined them to be. So when the system of education is broken at any point in time, the child loses time, the child loses opportunities, the child loses contact, because education is not just the classroom activity. He comes into a school, he is able to socialize with his colleagues, with his friends, see new things, hear new things, meet people every day. So when there's a strike, the child is restricted to the home, which is just a small part of the educational system. So he can't explore those other things. And it is so unfortunate that this has become perennial, in our country, especially in most states where, primary school teachers haven't been accorded the kind of recognition and attention that they need. And I'm very hopeful that this one, the FCT, will be resolved, expeditiously, and that whatever issues there are, will be tackled. Because the final analysis, the time lost, the opportunities lost cannot be regained. So the earlier we brought this to a stop, the better for us as a people.
When you cast your mind back, you kind of think about how we got here. One will say, how did we even get here in the first place? We heard about stories about how, in the olden days, headmasters were highly revered persons in the society and in the communities.
Absolutely.
The society placed so much value, on them, and so they are respected, and all of that. But here we are today, in 2021. Where do you think that we've gotten it wrong?
Well, I think we seem to be a nation that places emphasis on the less important things while we neglect the very important ones. I'm sorry to say this. I'm a part of the leadership of this country, being a member of the National Assembly, but that is the truth. Growing up also, I cannot remember a time when teachers went on strike for 1 week, 2 weeks when I was growing up. And I'm not that old, I'm just in my 50s. So you can imagine, how things have seriously deteriorated to the extent that in some instances teachers are on strike for so many months. In the early 2002, there was a state in Nigeria, if I remember very well, it's Anambra, where teachers were on strike for 2 years. The schools were shut. So we have moved from a time where we prioritized the things that are actually important, and now our conversations, our actions, everything we do today are centered around things that to me are less important, and especially in politics. Even if you look at our conversation, I was listening to the newspaper review today. If you do a content analysis of media, reportage, and every other thing, you find out that we have a greater concentration of discussion around politics. Who will be president in 2023? Which zone will produce this? Who will do that? Who is going to take VAT? Who is not going to take VAT? And what have you? Yeah, these issues are also important. But in the order of hierarchy, I believe very strongly that education should be topmost. So where we got it wrong was that, we shifted our attention from the important things that build a nation. And no nation jokes with the educational system and gets anywhere. If you look at all the countries that we're trying to emulate today, that have reached an advanced stage, even in their democracy, those who have attained a major feat even in democracy, look at where they started from. They placed premium on education of their children so that they can have that human capital to drive development in the society. And until we go back to that, the United Nations is recommending 26% of budgetary allocation to education. We hardly do 20%. There are even some states, by the analysis our organization did recently, that have 12% of their allocation to education. Now, this is not the way to go. So until we go back to that which, we needed to do, which we used to do, I think it will be very difficult for us to get it right.
Yeah. Now, when the COVID-19 pandemic came, we were not prepared, and it took a heavy toll, on Nigeria's educational system. Other countries were exploring the use of technology and all of that, for children to actually learn from home, but we were not prepared for that. How would you say, what lessons have we learned from the COVID-19 pandemic?
Well, the biggest lesson, as it has to do with children, especially, and education, is that this society needs to provide ready-made alternative for emergencies. The COVID-19 was an emergency. It was a health emergency. Like you rightly said, we weren't prepared. But not only we, most nations of the world were not prepared. But even though they were not also expecting that there will be that kind of a pandemic that will come and disrupt every aspect of their life, they had institutions and mechanisms to ameliorate the effect of that on children and on education, and especially in terms of technology. So while children were not going to schools in most of those other countries, they had alternatives of attending classes via Zoom, via Google Classes, via all other technological devices. In Nigeria, I'm not sure the percentage of those children who had such alternative was up to 20. I don't have the statistics, but I'm just saying that I'm not sure up to 20% of Nigerian children had an opportunity of keying into those platforms because, of course, our technological base is very low. And if you go to most of our schools, especially the public schools today, the program we had on Saturday, the Universal Children's Day, there was a school that came to attend the program from one of the states. And in the conversation we had the night before, we discovered that the children had never seen a computer. They had never even worked on it. They have never even seen a computer. So we had the pleasure with the support of NITDA to present them with a desktop computer at the program, that day. So this just shows you, and this is the same thing all over the country in most of the public schools, that we have. Children have no access to any device that can make them learn remotely. And the pandemic was about human contact. So there was a necessity to keep them apart from the classrooms, from the teachers, from other students. But if we have introduced enough technology into our educational system, the kind of disruptions that we had in the academics of the children wouldn't have happened. So I do hope that we have learned those lessons and that we will go ahead now to make provisions for those kind of things, so that in case any other thing happens, God forbid, but it may happen, that will disrupt academics, there can be alternatives that will be readily available for children to go to schools and do other education-related activities.
Okay. All right. Now, I've seen that you have co-authored 2 books here. One about 160 things every child should know, talking about the Nigerian Constitution, Child Rights Act, and other laws. Also, we have the leaders of our dreams here. Now, give us a sense of the nexus between education and the crop of leaders that we have now, the kind of people we have in our political offices and all of that.
Absolutely. Now, leadership itself is there could be innate abilities, there could be gifts for leadership, but leadership is nurtured. Leadership is developed, and my own experience relating with children in other parts of the world showed me that right from childhood they try to inculcate in their children the necessary ethics and values which leadership entail. Let me give you an example on the issue of volunteering, for example. If you want to go to school in the United States of America and you want to really be an excellent student, you want to access scholarships and other opportunities, you must have a record of volunteering. And volunteering is not just about, it could even be in the mosque, it could be in the church, it could be in the clubs and societies, but you must be somewhere or something that you have done without necessarily having to be paid for as a contribution to the community or the society that you have. Now, it will not be difficult for children who go through that process to understand that as leaders, they have to be sacrificial. As leaders, they have to offer service in a manner that's not expecting that, they have to be rewarded, in quote. Unfortunately here, leaders are like kings, rather than servants. And that is not what we learned, even from our major religious books, where Muslims and Christians, majorly in Nigeria, and the two major proponents, if I may say, of the two religions were people who lived sacrificially, who lived a life of servanthood. So I believe very strongly, and that's why we in the CalDEF we go into book publishing, that we should begin to make available for our children materials that teach the major essence of leadership right from their childhood. The Yorubas have a proverb. They say when a fish is dry, you can no longer bend it. So if you bend it, it breaks. So if you want to bend a fish, you bend it when you just catch it from the river and it's still very fresh. And so these children have very fresh mind. They have a very fertile ground that we can plant important ethics on. And it is whatever we plant today that will reflect tomorrow when they become the leaders of this country. They are leaders at the moment. We actually don't even call them leaders of tomorrow in our organization. We call them young leaders. Because in the schools there's leadership. There are school prefect, there's a class captain, there is a health prefect and what have you. That's a form of leadership. In their various clubs and organizations, the press club and what have you, they have leadership roles that they are playing. So we let them know that you are not leaders of tomorrow. You are actually leaders today, but you are only young. So you are young leaders. And it is whatever they learned today that they replicate when they eventually become the senators, the governors, the rep members, the ministers of tomorrow. So it is important for us as a country to incorporate leadership education into education right from the primary schools. And that's exactly what we're trying to do. These are not the first books that the organization is publishing. We started publishing books on leadership in 2017. And there are so many areas to cover. For example, this one, I don't know if I can have it. This book on the Constitution, it will surprise you to know that even adults, many people do not know what the Nigerian Constitution says about so many other things. And we think children need to know about the laws governing their country. They need to know when you say state of emergency, what does it mean? When you talk about Consolidated Revenue Fund, what does it mean? When you talk about the Supreme Court, what does the Supreme Court do? So we believe that we should break it down in a question and answer format for children to be able to know what the Nigerian Constitution says. Apart from that, the Child Rights Act, which is a law passed in 2003, affects them directly. Right. What right does it guarantee them? What benefit does it guarantee them? What do they need to know so that if anybody is violating their rights, they will know that no, what you're doing is wrong. The Nigerian Constitution and the Child Rights Act and the Universal Convention on Children says this and this about me, and then they can live a life of understanding and responsibility, therefrom.
Okay. All right. Now, how important is this to the participation of young people in governance and democracy?
Very, very important, because like I said, participation is not just the main thing. People are participating always, but what are they bringing to the table? That's actually the issue. So those who are participating today, we can ask ourselves, is their participation qualitative? Is the participation delivering on our expectations as a people, as a country? I was in a conference recently and I told them, I said, everybody should bring out their notepad or Google, whatever, you have a Google on it. Just Google Nigeria Vision 2050. There's nothing that will come up. Nigeria hasn't developed any vision for 2030. There's no vision 2030. There's no vision 2025. But go and Google the same, Google Dubai Vision 2070. It props up. It gives you an idea of where Dubai wants to be in the year 2070. Now that is leadership. So whatever we do today, the quality of the leadership that we reflect today was as a result of our experience yesterday. So whatever we do for children today, whatever we do for our young people today, will determine the quality of the participation that they will be having in the governance process in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And that is why this is very, very important. And we all need to key into this, even from our homes. A lot of homes operate a dictatorial system of government, if you want to put it that way. Even to decide what you're going to eat, children are not involved. To decide so many things, where do you want to go and spend your holiday, where do you want to go? I was taking my children out. They came to Abuja for this program we had on Saturday, and we sat down together yesterday and decided, where will you be? I had in mind to take them somewhere. They didn't want to go there, and they gave me reasons why they prefer something else, and what they preferred was not injurious to them, was not unhealthy. So I said, okay, so we go with that, even though that will cost me a little more, more money. So what I'm saying is that we get our children participatory. We get them acculturated into what leadership is all about. By the time they get into those positions, they know that they have to live in the reality of what the world expects of leaders.
Okay. Now, would you say the leadership and value contents presently in our curriculum in Nigerian schools are enough, to prepare young leaders?
Absolutely not. I don't even think the content is there at all, and that is the truth. We're trying to engage with the Universal Basic Education Commission, and we're going to engage with the NERDC, the organization that deals with the issue of curriculum. I know it's a lot of work. We do civic education, and again, let me quickly draw this. It also has a correlation with the quality of our teachers. We also need to do more in improving our teacher education, and I want to commend the President Muhammadu Buhari on this. The decision by the federal government to give tuition-free education to those who want to study education in our universities, and even give them bursary, is a phenomenal decision of the federal government. I don't know who gave that advice, but I think it's a thumbs up for the government. Because what do we have at the moment? When people want to go to university, they choose some courses other than education. So when they cannot meet up with the cutoff marks for those other courses, they say, okay, come and study education. So we are throwing, they are not interested in education. 2, they are not academically excellent. And we believe that, okay, the only place you can succeed is to go to study education. And they become the teachers, of our children. Who does that? In India, if you are a first-class material, you are recommended to go either into the academics or to the public service as a first-class material, because that's where they need you. They want to make sure their education is top-notch. The same thing in most other countries. Of course, Finland is the best of that example, where, to study education, you must score higher than the person who wants to go and study medicine or study law. So it starts from that. If the federal government can pull through with this decision that Mr. President made to offer tuition-free education to those who want to study education, and also grant them bursaries, we will draw more of our brightest minds into the field, and it is what you have that you can give. So when we have our brightest minds, our most resourceful hands teaching our children, the quality of what we are going to be giving to our children will be so excellent. So at the moment, I don't think we have enough quality content of leadership in our educational system, and we need to begin to do that, because that is the way to go. Leadership determines almost everything that happens in the society. So if you don't have great leaders, thinking leaders, resourceful leaders, sacrificial leaders, what they will be churning out as policies, as programs, as laws will be very, very mediocre.
All right. Now, as much as the issue of content is important, also the problem of infrastructure is also something that needs to be given attention to.
Absolutely.
I mean, you mentioned earlier on that you had to engage with children over the weekend who have not seen a computer before. What must we do differently to improve the standard of infrastructure in our schools, in our primary, secondary schools, in Nigeria, to harness learning?
Okay, absolutely. Where it starts from is in devoting more resources to education. Like I said earlier on, we need to devote more resources, and we need to not only devote those resources, we need to follow through to ensure that the resources we vote into education, are actually utilized for that purpose. Now, a school does not necessarily have to be a gigantic building. It's not about the size of the building. It's about the functionality of the building. Nigeria is not, it is shameful that even as we speak, we have children studying under trees, in dilapidated structures and what have you, all over the country. I used to think this is restricted to some part of the country until very recently. I was just doing a random visit in my federal constituency, and I went to a school and I found children under the trees studying. That was a very heart-rending one for me, and I said, well, even here. So we have to first devote more resources, follow through with the resources, and there's something that we are getting very, very wrong, and that is the multiplicity of schools. Now, schools do not have to be so many. If you have just few ones that can serve the community and provide a means of convenience for the children that are very good, it's better than having 100 schools and there is none of the 100 that actually serve the purpose of, in terms of infrastructure. Another thing we also need to look at, and this is an idea that I've written about and I want to just quickly share it. Let me give an example of a laboratory. In my federal constituency, I went around the schools and I found out that most of the schools have no laboratories. They study chemistry, physics, and biology. And there is an idea that, well, in some countries of the world, you can have mobile laboratories. You can have mobile ICT centers, which you build into large vans, well equipped, and they can be shared on days by schools in the environment. A laboratory can move, if we don't have the resources to provide for all schools now, can move on Tuesday in a school in Yanya, and on Wednesday it's going to another school in a neighboring community. On Wednesday, at least in a week, the children will be sure that for 1 week they can use the laboratory. It drives into their school, they go in and they do their practicals and use it for the 3 hours allocated to them, for example. It moves to another school. These are some of the things that we can do to improve on our infrastructure, as a country for our schools, because these are very important. If you raise children from primary to secondary school, they have never used computers, they have never been to a laboratory, and you ask them to go and study chemistry, physics, and biology, and then compete with children from those other, don't forget, it's a global village. The children we are raising today are going to be competing with children from Switzerland, from Japan.
Don't you think that idea poses some kind of challenge in terms of danger? Laboratories, of course, deals with chemicals and all of that and all of that. So, don't you think that there's a risk, very high risk?
Absolutely not, because I'm not saying anything that is new. It's used in other parts of the world. It's just the storage facilities. It is purpose built. I don't know whether you're talking about the chemicals spilling over or something like that.
Yes, yes.
No. It's the storage facilities. You have boxes in all the vans and they are stored, and they are manned by professionals. They are not manned by quacks. They are people who know how to handle these things, that they have, and they are purpose-built vehicles. They don't cost that much, and like I said, it's like a stopgap measure, because as it is today, we must not also pretend to the fact that we are challenged by resources. There's no doubt about that. The time there was where we had excess money that we were saying that we had money, but we had problem of how to spend it. Yeah, today we still have the money, but the population has grown, so huge that the income that we are having appears not to be sufficient again to do so many things. So we should be creative. We should be resourceful in providing these very essential things for our schools.
Yeah. Wow. All right then. Well, thank you so much. We would have to end the discussion here at this point. Thank you for coming, on the show. Now, we've been speaking with Honorable Bamidele Salam and talking to us, about the need to prioritize, our educational system and to give also attention to raising children with leadership qualities, harnessing it in every way that we can. Now, we'll go on a short break, and then when we come back, we'll take a look at other discussions on the program. Please stay with us.
Get latest updates on current topical issues and breaking news by downloading the TrustTV mobile app on your Android devices. Go online, click Google Play Store, search TrustTV, install the app, and get doses of unfiltered information on happenings all over the world in your pocket. TrustTV, documenting the Nigerian story.
right, welcome back. You are still watching Daybreak on Trust Television. Now, recently we saw a video circulating on social media where along the Kaduna-Abuja highway where a purported abduction happened, and we saw vehicles, on the roadside. Did you see that video?
Yes, it's almost, I would say it's a video that has gone viral on social media. We have clips, from that incident along Abuja, Kaduna, where someone was videoing and showing some of the abandoned vehicles, belonging to the people that were kidnapped, by these bandits. And it's quite a tragic one. Just when we thought that, well, the situation is under control, then it appears that we have a lot more that needs to be done, as far as that is concerned. Now we have in the studio Sheffield Suleiman, one of our correspondents who is conversant with that route, to tell us, well, what exactly is going on, on that route. Just yesterday you had to fly through that route, and then you have an experience, on that route. What exactly transpired?
Well, first of all, let me use the opportunity to, condole with the family of the former, gubernatorial aspirant in Zamfara State who lost, his life in the process, and also to sympathize with the families and relatives of those that have been abducted along the road. Quite a number of people, looking at that video. Yes, it is by the grace of God, if I should put it that way, because I was actually on that road between 1 and 2 p.m. And I understand the incident took place around 2:30 thereabout. So you can imagine some 30 minutes later, this incident happened. Well, so many factors, could be responsible. First, just like you said earlier on, there has been some substantial, decline in terms of the frequency of the attacks that we used to see before. There was some sort of normalcy, that has been restored, in that route, substantially because of the, consistent operations of security operatives along the route. A number of deployments, I understand, were made. Apart from the conventional security forces, the police and all of that, there were also special forces that were deployed, specifically to man that road, a very important and strategic one for that matter. There was also a deployment of, I can't remember the precise number now, of some female soldiers who have been frequenting, you see them patrolling, the two extremes of the road. That, to a very large extent, has also restored the confidence of the, people using that road. I happen to see at some point, I see them, along the road, in their convoy. If you see them, you feel confident that, yes, something is being done. So there was, decline in the number of attacks in the last couple of months, which was very, very encouraging. But then something came up, something happened.
So do you think that probably the kidnappers, are taking advantage of the issue with the Abuja-Kaduna train, the rail line, there's a bit of disruption of service based on the strike, the warning strike that the union workers, went for. Could that be a factor?
That could be a very key factor. The fact that these guys, these bandits, terrorists as you can call them, are also very much conversant with what is happening. They have been gathering a lot of intelligence through the radio. They listen to radio a lot in those forests and so on. So they are also aware of what is happening. They know that there is, disruption in terms of the rail services. That's one. There are, just like I said, there's several factors. If you look at that axis, between Regina, Doka, and of course getting to that Olam factory and all of that, the road is terribly bad. At some point motorists have to, squeeze themselves in just one lane to be able to navigate. You find, very, very deep potholes that you cannot even attempt, to say you want to navigate around. So you see, it is extremely difficult. Coupled with the bad roads, the intelligence, that the bandits are also gathering and taking advantage of. And then 3, I think there is also some level of laxity on the part of security agencies. You know how we do things in Nigeria. When things are coming back to normal, people begin to relax. I've also happened to notice that because, in the last couple of days or weeks, there is absence, so to speak, of those security operatives that have been plying the road, especially those female soldiers. Have not been seeing them. Even though we're told that the security agencies or operatives are also taking the fight to the bandits, which the right way to go. I don't know what happened along the line. Perhaps they must have also relaxed along the line. And then fourthly, there is this issue of intelligence, which is also very critical. At that point yesterday, around 1:30 thereabout, there was this surveillance aircraft, that used to frequent the road too. Perhaps trying to gather intelligence and surveillance and what have you. I wonder what exactly happened, because it actually passed, along that time. Is it that they were unable to get the right intelligence, to preempt this attack? One. Is it that they don't have the necessary technology or the equipment that they require, perhaps, to do effective surveillance of the road? That's another. And then, again, also, there should be, the level of surveillance should also be frequent. You just find them do perhaps once or twice, and that's all. So all of this need to be really reviewed, because we as a country, it is appalling to say that we cannot, strategically man this road that is less than 300 kilometers or so. As strategic as the road is, whatever it requires as a nation, we should be able to, provide in terms of technology, in terms of surveillance equipment, and so on and so forth. These days you can even use drones, not necessarily so, to reduce cost and what have you. What stops even the federal government from deploying, if you like, closed-circuit cameras, sophisticated ones that can be monitoring or monitoring that road 24 hours. So I wonder what exactly is happening with us.
Earlier I had wanted to ask, earlier I mentioned that you've not really seen much security operatives on the road anymore. I had wanted to ask, was it that they were withdrawn, over time? And is this because we have fewer security operatives in the country?
Well, both, I wasn't there to say whether, they actually withdrawn. Security issues are issues that you don't come to the public and mention. The security agencies have been doing their own bit, and of course they've been deploying the right, strategies to deal with the situation. At some point when I told you that I learned that they were taking the fight to the bandits, every one of us was happy that is the right thing to do. Don't even give them an inch to come out and attack people. Dominate the forest, dominate the bushes, to make sure they don't even have the time, to come out and attack people. They've been doing that substantially, because you see them on motorbikes, going into the forest and so on. And you see they're also coming out, and then they are also deployed at strategic places. You will see the motorbikes on the road and what have you. So that should be the right way to approach this issue. And then, two, agreed, yes, there is, not sufficient personnel in terms of security in Nigeria. It's a well-known fact. Less than 1 million, if it is even up to that, cannot secure over 200 million people. Even though technology has taken so many things, but then are we really measuring up, to the 21st century demand of technology and how it can be used, to track or address security challenges? That's another fundamental question altogether. Personnel, yes, because as it is now, we rely much on the personnel, to do this, the physical personnel. But we should be, we should also have a rethink. We should, go in line with the demands of the 21st century, engage in technology, which is very critical, to addressing some of these issues.
Okay, so how much of engagement with the local communities, along those routes have we seen? Maybe some kind of vigilante kind of arrangement, along that route. And how much of that collaboration have we seen?
Well, I was also made to understand that the success, that recorded in the last couple of months with regards to addressing the issue of the kidnapping and that is going on along that road was realized or actualized as a result of local intelligence and then the interface of the security agencies with the locals. Substantially, they have helped in providing the necessary intelligence, for the security operatives to have that. I mean, to secure that, achievements that we talk about. So local intelligence is very critical, also very key. But how much, in terms of perhaps incentives, is the Nigerian government also providing, even though citizens also have a responsibility to support the security agencies. But don't forget the fact that some of them are also beneficiaries of some of these attacks. Some harbor the criminals, some provide intelligence, those along that route, who are doing one or two things. You think that they are even the ones perhaps begging around and all of that. Some of them provide intelligence to some of these criminals. So, and then they do it for a fee, for instance. It's not just free. So, it's a whole lot of issues that we really need to look at. But as you rightly said, it is very important we explore, community engagement, engaging the locals and then tapping, the necessary intelligence that is required to dislodge these criminals.
All right, now let's take a break and take a look at some of the videos that we got from that incident. There were some videos that went viral on social media, so we'll take a look at that, and then when we come back we'll just continue with the discussion.
This is life kidnapping. This is kidnapping life in broad daylight. Thank God for our life on the 21st of November 2001. Thank you, God, for saving us. Nigga, my chisel. Thank you, God.
Yes, thank God.
Life one. Correct. You can hear the gunshot.
God is faithful.
You can hear the gunshot. It's slow down.
God is faithful.
Correct. You can hear the gunshot.
God is faithful.
You can hear the gunshot. Scaring them away. You can hear the gunshot. Live gunfire going on.
God is faithful.
Live gunfire going on.
Yes, sir. Then the person somebody.
They don't carry. They have kidnapped some people. What's happened? La ilaha illallah. Oh God. Let's ask some people. So someone is been shot. He's shit right inside his car. Oh God. He's happening live on our way back. Oh shit, he's been shot. He's been shot. Under! Individual! Individual! Yeah! Individual here, God! What did I tell you? See individual! Hey, it's Gabokibu!
They carry our friend.
Hey, they don't carry our friend.
Hey, see our friend. Hey, Jesus!
I tell you, say this car!
Hey.
You said me also like motor.
Ah, Jesus, they carry our friend.
Oh God! Oh God of creation!
Oh, Jesus. Hey, when I just live here before. Then, if any,
oh God!
Why? See other people here. See other people here.
Why?
See other people here. See other people come.
That video is quite disheartening when you look at it. Shafiu, some would ask, how were these bandits able to move these people they've abducted? How do they actually move people?
This is a very critical question because if you look at the measures, being taken by states that are ravaged by this banditry and kidnapping and so on, Kaduna inclusive, it is the reason why they ban motorcycles from operating. It is also the reason why they ban the sale of petrol in jerry cans and so on and so forth. So you could imagine the number of people that have been abducted. How were they able to move with them through the bush and what have you? Is it by foot? If it is by foot, then what happened to the surveillance aircraft after the attack? Is it that the same aircraft cannot locate the movement of these bandits with the victims? these are questions that need to be answered. And again, are they also harboring them, hiding them around, those villages and so on? If that is the case, then what happened to the ground troops? What are they also doing? And then the response. It takes a longer time for even the security agencies, the police, to confirm the incident. That shows that they are completely detached with what is happening along that route. We should be able to, speed up the process of investigation, the process of response. Look at what happened at the Abuja University. When those lecturers were abducted. Everyone will have to give the security agencies the credit. Within 24 hours or thereabout, or 48 hours, they were able to rescue these guys. It shows that, and I was there, I covered that event. Yes. Immediately after the incident, you could see the security agencies mobilizing, ready to chase these guys. And it paid off, because in the end, they were able to track them and then get back these victims. But in this case now, a number of people have been taken, and nobody for now can tell you where they are located. How were they managed, to be taken into the forest and all of that. So I think we really need to, be up and doing. We need to up the game. While these guys are also strategizing and re-strategizing, look at the precision at which they carry out the attack. These days, they don't even wait for longer time. No. Within 10, 15, 20 minutes, they are done. So they target, they come immediately, open fire sporadically, whoever they meet, those that they will kill, and then move out, with the victims, those that are able to abduct and all of that. So you can see, if bandits can do this, what about our security agencies? Where is the speed? Where is the intelligence? Where is the synergy among them? We have the air components, we have the ground troops, we have the intelligence network also around all of these axes. Are they not working on the same page? Are they not on the same page? That's one question Nigerians will continue to ask.
All right, now people will have to still pass through that route, even after that incident. I'm sure that there are people who were probably stuck somewhere and then, are waiting to see what will happen. Do we have any information about them, as to how they were able to maneuver their way, either back to Kaduna or, to Abuja?
Well, it happened, happened to be, it happened to us, so to speak, at some point. I was coming to Abuja from Kaduna, and then an attack was going on, an operation of the bandits was going on along immediately after Akilbu. I think that was one of the incidents that they killed a number of people when they attacked a bus, a passenger bus, and so on. So I happened to be on that road at that time, a couple of minutes away from the attack scene. So I saw what happened. What normally happens is that when an attack is going on, and then the motorists, those plying the road, sense that something is happening, you see them coming back, immediately. So for the person who is heading to Abuja and seeing people coming back, certainly you also have to turn back. So what people normally do is, they move, back, and then find an appropriate place to converge. You find everyone parking there, waiting to see what exactly is happening, waiting also to see, to get the green light from the security agencies if actually the road is cleared now that people can go. So we waited. After a while, when they finished, when the attack, ended, security agencies, were coming from that end, and then they told us that the road is cleared now, we can go, and then people begin to gradually, proceed. So it's like that. Not that people will go back and then terminate the journey. No, people wait until the attack finish and then they continue the movement.
Oh, isn't this sad?
It's really sad.
We've come to this.
Really, really sad.
Really.
Well, thank you so much. We have to end the discussion here on this segment for giving us your first-hand experience, on that road.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, we will take a short break now, and then when we come back, the day break will continue. Please stay with us.
Get latest updates on current topical issues and breaking news by downloading the TrustTV mobile app on your Android devices. Go online, click Google Play Store, search TrustTV, install the app, and get doses of unfiltered information on happenings all over the world in your pocket. Trust TV, documenting the Nigerian story. latest updates on current topical issues and breaking news by downloading the TrustTV mobile app on your Android devices. Go online, click Google Play Store, search TrustTV, install the app, and get doses of unfiltered information on happenings all over the world in your pocket. Trust TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
All right, it's now time for us to take a look at the story of Aisha, the girl with a mysterious abnormality who has so much passion and vigor to be in school, but because of the financial status of her parents, she now begs on the streets to fend for herself and pay for her school fees. Take a look.
At about 6 a.m. in the morning, she stands on the divergence of this road scrounging for money. When it's 8 a.m., she leaves for school with a little money realized. This is the story of Aisha, the girl with a mysterious abnormality. I moved out in search of where she lives.
My name is Fatima. I am Aisha's mother. Aisha's condition happened in the twinkle of an eye, from Thursday to Friday. In the morning, we wanted to lift her up, but she couldn't move anymore. She started crawling like a snake. She also had high fever. That is the genesis of her condition. But since we started using local herbs, she is now able to move from one spot to another. My name is Aisha Deyabu. I am in primary 3. I want to be a doctor. That's why I beg on the street to help my parents.
I am by name Ibrahim Zubair Lamishi, the teacher in primary 3. Hopefully, we have a special case of Aisha Dayabu. Is a pupil in primary 3, and she has gone through from primary 1 to 3 in this very school. Aisha Dayabu is a special child, and with the level of doggedness, she's well equipped to go further in school.
According to Nigeria's current population statistics, there are about 10 million children with disabilities in Nigeria, representing 15% of the total population of children in the country. According to a paper put together by the Joint International Association of Persons with Disabilities, even if enough schools were to be provided to accommodate all children in Nigeria, children with disabilities will still be excluded if those schools are not designed, constructed, equipped, staffed, administered and managed in a disability-inclusive and physically accessible manner. Inclusive education is the global best educational practice and standards to ensure that no child is out of school, irrespective of their disabilities, gender, and other social status.
All right, thank you for staying with us there. Very, very interesting story. Z, whatever went through your mind before you came about that story?
You know, I usually, when I pass through to see my mom in Gwarimpa, I usually see her standing on the roadside just about 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. And then I wondered why, and she's always wearing a school uniform, and I said, why does she always stand there? And when it's about 8, she's not there anymore. So I asked my mom, and she told me that the girl usually comes there to beg by 7, and then she leaves there by 8 and treks down to school. And then one day I just decided to meet her and say, please, why do you always stand on this road? And then she told me she lives in a very terrible environment. I think it's a very small shack community around Life Camp, but she treks all the way down from there because she doesn't have a bicycle or anything to move with. So I decided to go there, meet her family. I spoke to her mom, and then she told me about, the whole scenario about her disability and all of that. We did that story, and I was really happy and glad that some non-governmental organizations saw that story and decided to pay for her tuition till she graduates from primary school. And that for me was a game changer, and I was really happy I did her story.
Yeah, very, very interesting. I mean, this journalism work, of course, you cannot take away the fact that it's a job of impact.
Right.
It's a job that seeks to draw attention of the society to very, very important things, like one of them, which we talked about earlier today, about education, children's education, and more so for this child who is in this, condition, very difficult condition, but yet she find the courage, to pursue her education, knowing the importance of that. I think it's quite commendable. Rather than just beg all the way, she have decided that, look, I want education, and it's good that we have this. This goes to well-meaning Nigerians out there who are watching. There are many of such kids,
thousands of them,
around us everywhere. You could just extend a hand of, kindness, for these children, and see what you can do, to make life better, for them. It's very, very important that as a society we extend a hand of fellowship,
right,
so to say. Yes, it's not just always about us, but also the children around. It's very, very important. I mean, who knows? She may turn out to be something tomorrow.
And it came through you. That's a great fulfillment for you and for humanity as well.
All right. Well, very, very interesting point there. I think at this point we would end the show for today. Join us again tomorrow for another time on the program. My name is Ayubelia. In case you've missed, for those who have missed, you can catch up on our social media handles and also follow us across, subscribe to our YouTube channel and other platforms. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.